Big Hero 6. This movie does everything in its power to make you think that the villain is this guy, who I'm just gonna call Mark Beeks. Wait, didn't I already do that joke? Anyway, turns out it's this guy.
Professor Callahan?
Who could have seen this coming? Me. I think what annoys me about this twist villain is the fact that the movie seems so smug about the red herring that is this guy. There's literally a scene where TJ Miller says, this guy is obviously the mysterious masked villain that we're fighting. Like, I get it, guys, you think you're clever. And then it was this other guy, and wow, I'm shocked.
Bet you didn't expect him to be the bad guy. What's his name again? Johnson Smith. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's really cool. He's the CEO of Johnson. Yeah, that's really something.
What I didn't see coming were his motivations, which were kind of interesting, but they kind of fell apart because his plan was so dumb.
You took everything from me when you sent Abigail into that machine. Now I'm taking everything from you.
Wow, that's really stupid. I get that you want to kill him, but this is a pretty nonsensical and amateur way of doing it. Also, just like Hans, and unlike these people, this guy goes from normal dude to horrible murderer man who doesn't care about the consequences of his evil actions.
Is this what Abigail would have wanted?
Abigail is gone.
As if he has a reason to harm other people besides the guy who harmed him.
Tadashi, just let him die.
Give me the mask, hero.
He went in there to save you.
That was his mistake.
What the fuck, dude? He was like your prize student. Why do you have no concern over his death that you caused? Oh yeah, you're a one-dimensional villain in a kid's movie who isn't allowed to be a real human being with remorse for his actions.
That was his mistake.
Boo yourselves! I'm Garrett Bobby Ferguson.
You know, Waternoose actually felt bad for Mike and Sully. He didn't just say, lol, fuck them, I don't care.
Because of you, I had to banish my top scarer.
With this machine, we won't need scarers. Besides, Sullivan got what he deserved.
Sullivan was twice the scarer you will ever be.
And I know Charles Muntz tried to murder an innocent kid, but that dude was trapped in the jungle for 70 years with a bunch of dogs. What's your excuse to be an evil murder man? Oh, boo-hoo, my daughter is dead. I don't care if it's mean. Everybody's got dead people. That's no excuse to be a fucking dick. Wow, that was the most emotion I've ever felt over Big Hero 6. I don't even really like this movie. I've only seen it like once, and I had that much to say about the villain. Big Hero 6 is still indeed a movie. It's fine. I really like the opening, and I think it's a really compelling setup. But once Tadashi gets blowed up, everything kind of goes downhill. The superhero stuff is just really dull and uninteresting, and I forgot how much I hate TJ Miller in literally everything he's in. He's the comic relief in this, and I wanted him to die in every one of his scenes. I also still think the villain is dumb. So much of the movie's suspense hinges on its twist villain, but when it's the most predictable, obvious thing in the world, how do you expect me to stay invested? I will say, I like the contrast in how Hero and Callahan deal with grief. They both become okay with killing people because of how much their grief has consumed them, with Hero realizing it's not what Tadashi would have wanted. The problem is that Callahan is so inexplicably bloodthirsty and one-dimensional that it's comical, wanting to avenge his daughter's death while not caring about killing everyone around him. Like, he's only mad at Cray, right? As Cosmonaut puts it, this is a full-on ERJB. Evil robot Jeff Bridges. His motivations don't make logical sense, but we gotta fight a supervillain who's destroying everything, so whatever, who cares? I will say, the one thing I love about this movie is Baymax. He's adorable and funny and huggable, but like, that's a given. Overall, I was kinda bored. The characters were lame, the superhero stuff was lame. I remember when I first watched this movie, right around the scene where they all attacked that pigeon, I just thought to myself, this company released The Incredibles, a movie that's better in every conceivable way 10 years ago. And yeah, that says it all, I think. Among the nominees that year, everyone I know says How to Train Your Dragon 2 was better. I haven't seen it yet, but you know what?
I agree.
Or at the very least, the winner should have been the Lego Movie, one of the best animated movies of the decade, which the Academy, in all their divine wisdom, didn't nominate. That was their mistake. Despite my strong affinity for the series as a whole, I didn't quite get into the second one as much as the first and third. Weird, huh? I mean, this is kind of the fan favorite of the trilogy for a lot of people. How could it not work for me? Well, it still does. Keep in mind, I'm calling this the weakest in the trilogy, not the worst. Because worst implies the movie is bad, which it isn't, not by a long shot. This is a good movie that I just happen to have some problems with, to the point where I can't really call it a masterpiece like the first and third ones. And I get why that's a loaded statement, but trust me, we'll go into sufficient detail on why The Hidden World is a cinematic masterpiece at a later date. Just keep in mind that these are all my opinions, and I'm allowed to have them, and also we can all agree that this movie deserved the Oscar over Big Hero 6, obviously. After my opinions on the Madagascar movies changed so drastically on rewatch, I was really hoping the same thing would happen with How to Train Your Dragon 2. I really wanted everything to finally click so I could just fall in love with this movie like everyone else. And my opinion did change on rewatch. The movie got a little worse. Say what? I'm sorry, y'all, but to me, this is the biggest disappointment out of all the DreamWorks movies. Obviously, it's still really good, but for a franchise this special, really good just doesn't cut it. And it's so frustrating because the outline of the story is perfect. It's just all these little details that pile up and bring down the entire experience. I already made a video covering all my problems with the movie, so check that out for more details. But yeah, this rewatch made a couple of those problems worse. The side characters annoyed me more this time. The villain was way more embarrassing than I remember. And the weird pacing made it feel like nothing really happened by the end, which is crazy. A ton of stuff happened in this movie. A ton of really great emotional stuff. But it didn't register for me because the connective tissue between the handful of phenomenal scenes just wasn't that good. It's still a good movie. I still enjoyed myself, but it frustrates me beyond all reason because I can so easily visualize the masterpiece it was so close to being. Again, watch my video if you want the deets. All I can say here is Stan Gabber, because he's the best character in this trilogy. Okay, moving on. Okay, so what movie could have possibly topped Spirited Away and taken the title of the best Ghibli movie, in my opinion? Because that just seems too far-fetched to be true. A movie better than Spirited Away would have to be utterly transcendent. It would have to be inhumanly spectacular. A movie that feels less like it was crafted by actual people and more like something that was gifted to us from the heavens. I was pretty confident going in that no such movie existed. And I was dead fucking wrong. The Tale of the Princess Kaguya is one of the best movies I have ever seen in my life. It doesn't feel real. I honestly didn't know movies could be this good, and I'm struggling to think of a single thing wrong with it. This is the film that Takahata's entire career was building towards. The masterpiece he was always destined to make. He is without a doubt my favorite Ghibli director. Even though I didn't love Pompoko and My Neighbors the Yamadas, he did such a tremendously amazing job at developing the profoundly human stories at the heart of Grave of the Fireflies and Only Yesterday. He's just so amazing at showcasing the complex range of human emotions. Better than Miyazaki, in fact, who's still obviously great at it, but tends to focus more on the magical fantasy worlds he's created. But with Takahata, you feel every character's emotion right alongside them. And that's how I describe the Tale of the Princess Kaguya. I felt every conceivable emotion known to man. I was unbelievably charmed and laughing during the opening act. I felt tremendous irritation and anger as Kaguya's father got consumed by his greed. I experienced such profound sorrow every time Kaguya's life and happiness got ripped away from her piece by piece. Sorrow might be an understatement, actually. I don't think any piece of media has made me cry as much as this one has. Not just at the end, but throughout the entire film. It just puts you so perfectly in the depressing headspace of this character, to the point where you feel every single emotion she feels. But at the same time, this movie isn't dull or lifeless. It's literally the opposite. Not only is there still the typical Ghibli lighthearted and humorous moments, but the art style is absolutely stunning and evokes ancient Japanese folklore so perfectly. It's a film as beautiful to look at as it is to immerse yourself within the story, which expertly portrays so many profound themes. That of depression, women being restricted in society, unrealistic standards of beauty and elegance, whether it's worth it to suffer just for the sake of living an authentic life, and so much more. The emotional depth of this movie is astounding in how limitless it feels. I could talk about it for hours and never come close to saying everything there is to say about it. Spirited Away remains Ghibli's magnum opus, their most important and unforgettable film. But I personally believe The Tale of the Princess Kaguya is the best Ghibli film, one that should be revered as such for generations to come. Much like how I once said Ratatouille felt too mature and profound even for the already excellent Pixar, the same sentiment absolutely applies to this movie. It feels too amazing to be a Ghibli movie. Let that one sink in. I've been hemming and hawing over what I consider to be the best animated film ever made is. Between Spirited Away, The Prince of Egypt, The Incredibles, all that jazz. But I finally figured it out. It's this. I have never seen an animated movie so flawlessly told, so magnificently realized, and so overwhelmingly powerful until I saw The Tale of the Princess Kaguya.
I've made a huge mistake.
Oh my god, Professor Callahan is so stupid. Did he even once consider the fact that his daughter is still alive and trapped in the alternate dimension? A real dad would have resolved to rebuild the portal and go in there to get her back. And the fact that he doesn't do this is even worse when you consider that she's still alive. It just occurred to me on this rewatch how ridiculous it is that he goes to the trouble of rebuilding the portal, but not actually using it to try and save his daughter, but because he wants to suck up Craze's fancy new building. He might actually be the dumbest, most incomprehensible Disney villain of all time. At least the Zootopia sheep and Hans had cunning plans that were logical, even if they were revealed to be evil in stupid ways and didn't need to be in the movie. How come a character as smart as Callahan is said to be never once makes a good decision throughout the entirety of this movie? I guess you can say that was emblematic of how Big Hero 6 is not really a good movie. This is one of those Disney films that just never works for me and continues to not work for me the more I rewatch it. Baymax is amazing, and every time he's doing funny shenanigans on screen, the movie is good. But then they drop the funny Baymax shenanigans pretty quickly in favor of a tepid, boring, played-out superhero origin story. I just watched this movie and I cannot remember a single character trait any of these side characters have. Can you? What is this girl's name? What is this girl's name? I don't know. I just watched this movie and I don't know. Oh wait, I remember this guy's name. It's Wasabi because he spilled wasabi on his shirt and then they gave him that name forever. Why? Nothing TJ Miller says is funny, it's all annoying, and I hate him so much. Tadachi is great while he's around, and ultimately I like the message this movie's trying to portray about grief. A lot of scenes that focus on that concept are actually pretty effective. But it really all falls apart when you're supposed to contrast Hiro's grief at losing a loved one with Callahan's. Because Callahan doesn't feel like he's grieving. He just feels like a one-dimensional monster who never even cared about Abigail, or Tadachi, or any of his other students that he is now trying to murder for no real reason. Is this what Abigail would have wanted? Oh, it doesn't matter, she's gone anyway, lol. But I'm doing all this murder and destroying Crae's shit because I miss her.
I miss her a lot. I'll be back.
But who gives a shit what she wanted? I don't. To be honest, I will never get tired of dunking on Professor Callahan. He's just such a fascinating failure of a twist villain in every way. And he's the only thing I feel passionate about in this entire boring-ass movie. Well, him and Baymax. Good to know this movie has its fans. I'm not one of them. Also, now that I've seen the best animated movie ever made, The Tale of the Princess Kaguya, I just want to point out that this
Big Hero 6
might be the most embarrassing fuck-up in Oscars history. Aside from Brave and Happy Feet winning Best Animated, Ralph Breaks the Internet, Boss Baby, and Shark Tale getting nominated for Best Animated, Crash winning Best Picture, Green Book winning Best Picture, Bohemian Rhapsody winning Best Editing, Suicide Squad 2016 winning Anything, Rise of Skywalker getting nominated for Best Score, Michael Keaton losing Best Actor, Shakespeare in Love winning Best Picture, The King's Speech winning Best Picture, Todd Phillips getting a Best Director nomination, the horrendous Moonlight La La Land fiasco, the horrendous Doing Best Actor Last is a Tribute to Chadwick without Chadwick winning fiasco, the horrendous Jimmy Kimmel hosting 2 years in a row somehow fiasco. Wait, what was I even talking about?
Was a mistake.
You're right, that was my mistake.
I'm not talking about Big Hero 6 again. This is up there as one of the Disney movies I've talked about the most over the years, but unlike something like Frozen or Zootopia where there's actually a lot to say about them, there actually is so little to say about Big Hero 6 that it's kind of comical how much I talked about it in the past. It's whatever, it's generic and lame. Baymax good, that was his mistake guy bad, everyone else boring. I don't hate this movie, but I also don't like it. It is the quintessential example of a perfectly average modern kids movie. Let's move on with the list and our lives now.